everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown. And yes, I'm getting ready for bed. These are my PJs. Thank you, Lila, for sending them to me. They're so comfortable. So, why am I wearing these for a Dear Profiler Pat video? I'm going to tell you. This video is called Dear Profiler Pat. This is my question. I'm an older person. Should I move in with my significant other? All right. Well, tonight I don't have a significant other, and I'm going to my comfy little bed, and I'm going to leave the light on while I read a book, which my ex, when I was married, used to go, turn off the light. And now I don't have to turn off the light. So the question is, when you live alone for many, many years, oftentimes you do wish you could meet that person who would be your soulmate. Okay, maybe not so much of a soulmate, but at least a good companion. And you want to make them your significant other. And then you would not be single any longer so much. Even if you don't actually go through the whole marriage thing, you'd be with someone and you'd wake up to someone in the morning, have some breakfast together, decide what to do for the day, snuggle at night. You'd be able to go off on trips together, little weekends away. You'd have somebody to go do things with. And I know as a single person, it's not that great sometimes being single because you can't find anybody to go with, and it kind of sucks. Sometimes you want to go traveling and you're like, okay, I guess I go by myself. So there's advantages to being single, but there's advantages to being with somebody else as well. So the problem comes in when I say older, I say this meaning you're not starting out your young life. You're just coming out of college, you're coming out of high school, and you fall in love, or you think you fell in love. You get married, or you hook up with somebody, and you make these decisions based on the simple fact that neither one of you you're running away from your parents' homes. You're exploring in life, and you throw your cards in together. And you're like, let's see what happens. And sometimes, you're on the winning side or the losing side, but still you're building together. And then eventually maybe you have a family together and so on and so forth. And you build this whole life. But when you get older, and I'm speaking from a person who's 68, but there are people out here who are in their 40s or 50s, early 60s, some people in their 80s. And they're like, okay, I either have never gotten married, or I've never been in a real strong relationship, or I have been married and now I'm divorced, and I've been divorced almost 20 years. Some people are widowed and they've lost their spouse, their mate, and now they're on their own. And so we have this desire. Everyone has a desire to have a significant other in their lives. But there's this interesting problem. Once you have established a life of your own, not necessarily because you planned it that way, but just there's where you are. Now, for myself, I have my own home. I live next to my granddaughter and my daughter and her husband. I live very near my two sons. I have a career. I travel. I have friends. I have an area. I do things a lot in this area. I play table tennis, pickleball. I do art. I'm busy in this area. So then what happens is you run into somebody and you think, oh, this could work out. I could have a significant other. But you know what happens with that significant other? They have a significant other life. They too have a life. They have a home that they own. They have friends over in that location. They have hobbies. They have things that they do and don't want to do. And then you meet. Now, if you happen to live like a mile from each other, that usually works out the best. I've heard a lot from people down in the villages in Florida, where people have moved to, and they all live in the villages, and they have all these different activities, and then they meet, and they keep their separate homes, but they hang out a lot together, and this one goes to this one's home and spends a little time, and then this one goes to this one's home and spends a little time, but they both live in the same community. But when you're not in such a community, when you meet someone and they have their life and you have your life, Now you run into a problem. The question is, can you blend those lives, or does one of you want the other one to give up their life and they want to install you in their life? And pay attention to the word install. It's a really interesting word that I don't know that I've ever heard this used outside of my own self because I made it up. But install. I have had this happen ever since I was divorced. Let me tell you how it worked. So I'm divorced, and I ran into some fella, and he was like, "Oh, I really like you. You should move to where I live." Now, mind you, at this time I was living in Minnesota. I was working out of Minneapolis. That's where I did my television work. My sister was there. That's where I was staying. And this guy wanted me to move to a place called Bemidji. Bemidji, Minnesota is on the border of Canada. Smaller town, does have a college. I think Paul Bunyan has his axe and a purple ox up there. You know, it's cold up there. Anyway, he's like, why don't you move up here and be with me, not stay with me, but be with me. I'm like, why would I want to do that? First of all, I'd have to give up what I'm doing here. I have to give up my work, and then I have to give up my family to move up to some godforsaken little spot. Sorry, Bemidji, I know you're a good town on the border. I hate cold, and you're really cold up there. and he's like, yeah, but I'm a doctor, and I can't. You don't need to work. I'm like, okay, so you want to keep your home, your town, your practice. You want to keep your life, but you want me to give up my entire life to be installed in your home as your new wife. Now, I know a lot of people, when they get to my age, say, hey, the guy's just looking for a nurse and a purse. I mean, that's an old joke. And sometimes that's true. You know, you run into somebody who's, if you're in their 60s, somebody who's in their 70s or 80s, and they're like, oh my God, you know, I could use somebody to take care of me and, you know, maybe pay some bills. But a lot of times it's not quite that way. A lot of times the person doesn't need a purse. They have money. They don't need a nurse. I'm talking, and I'm not going to go male, female. I'm just saying this is so. And they want a companion. But the problem is they don't want to give up any of their life. They want you to give up all of your life. And so that was an example I have from way back. But then I had this happen to me recently. I'd known a guy for 10 years. Great guy. We had fun together. We used to meet like 4 times a year as friends. And then his wife died. Now, mind you, nothing happened. Believe me. It was always like, got off the metro, met him, went to some different political things, some went to the museum, whatever, and then came home. Nothing ever happened untoward, and I would never permit it. And I really didn't know. I thought maybe his wife was like in a, like a nursing home or something, or, you know. But I never knew. But anyway, nothing ever happened. But his wife died. And I'm thinking, you know, he was thinking, hey, you know, I've always liked you. And I thought, well, I've always liked you. A nice guy, 10 years older than me. And so, you know, after his wife died, we spent a little bit more time together. But over time, here's what happened. He had a home that was 3.5 hours away from mine. And he had no intention of leaving it. What he wanted to do was install me in his home. His wife was no longer there. And, you know, he loved his wife. He's a wonderful woman for 50 years. I had no jealousy issues. He can leave her pictures on the wall. I didn't even care. But I would have to give up my life here to go live with him. And I'm like, but are you willing to give up your life there to live with me? And the answer would have been no. And this is where your clue comes. When somebody wants to install you in their life and they're not willing to make any changes, they just think their life is fine, and they're offering you something nice. He had a lovely home, lots of money. He's a nice guy. I could just go live there. He thinks there's nothing wrong with this. But I would have to give up my home, my friends, my activities, my family to go hang out there. I said no. He was a little butthurt. I said we could stay friends. We're not. I haven't heard from him in a month. But this is the point. When you're going to meet somebody and spend time with them, the question comes down to, do they want to install you in their life? Do you want to install them in your life? In other words, you're going to keep exactly what you have, or they're going to keep exactly what they have, and the other person has to give up everything to be with you. Is that equitable? Is that fair? Is that having some kind of concern for the other person having their needs met as well? And there are times in life, and let's say this is true, when a person will accept these conditions. Let's say you live in a really shabby apartment. you know, you're on a fixed income which is really low, and you're struggling, and you hate where you live because there's drug addicts there, and there's gunshots going on, and you meet this person, and that person says, "Hey, I really like you. Why don't you come live in my home?" You look over there and you go, "Okay, well, my apartment sucks. Your house is beautiful. I have a kid who's sort of in the area, but he never pays attention to me, so I don't really have that many friends here. I could make a whole new life with you in your place. You're not giving up much to go move there. If they can install you and you're happy about being installed, bully for you and bully for the other person. But if you have to give up a whole lot and go live with somebody else who isn't going to give up anything, you better think twice about that. Because is that fair, and is that what you want? And some people, the problem is people become desperate, and they, you've been alone for a long time, and you think, man, it would be nice to be with somebody. What would it be like to wake up and turn over and have somebody say, "Hi, sweetie," in the morning? Sit down and have breakfast with somebody. That's so wonderful. Somebody I could, we could just go take a walk together. We could say, "Hey, want to go for lunch?" Wouldn't that be great? Yeah, it would be. But you better be sure you're not giving up everything to get that, because that can get old really quickly. And you have to ask yourself, why is the other person asking me to give up everything? And they give up nothing, but they get this wonderful addition to their life. That's a problem. And so when people ask me, should I give up everything to go live with a significant other? I have to ask you, is it equitable? Is it what you really want? Or are you so desperate that you're just going to say, I'm going to take the chance because I don't want to be alone anymore. So I'm going to give up everything. I just hope this person's really great. And when I live there, it turns out well. Well, you have the right to take that risky choice. I don't know. I just advise you to step back and ask yourself what you're giving up and what it means that the other person thinks you should give it up. That was my problem. I was like, nice guy, but he didn't seem to be concerned about what I was giving up. He was like, what's the problem? He didn't see it. And I'm not saying, maybe he's just blind, but personally, I want to be with a guy who sees it. So I didn't give it up. And I'm not unhappy that I made my choice. But, that's a choice a lot of older people run into. Because when you're younger, you don't have much to give up. You're just running away from home. I'm done with being a kid. Hey, bye bye parents. Hey, let's run off to California. Let's run off to wherever you're running off to, and you have this experience, and then you also got hormones running and all that crap. So you're like, oh, this doesn't happen when you're slightly older. You have things to think about. You have things to think about whether it's okay that you just walk away from what you already have and what you're already connected to. You have to think about that. So anyway, those are my thoughts on, should I just give up what I have and go live with this significant other? It might work for you, but you should think about it before you do it. All right, that's my thoughts on this. If you're new to the channel and you like my channel, this is a kind of a little offshoot of what I normally do as a profiler. It's called Dear Profiler Pat. If you like this, but you also want to learn about crime, do like and subscribe to the channel and check my playlist and hit the bell for notifications. And When I get in the mood, I might be back with another Dear Profiler Pat. See you next time. Bye.